Hi everyone, welcome back to Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Today's video is the Shakespeare Journey Tag. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name's Alice and I have way too many books, and today we're not really talking about the way too many books, we're talking about Shakespeare. And September on Booktube is traditionally Shaketember, or it has been ever since I've been here on Booktube, and I've participated every year, so this is my third Shaketember, and this is being hosted this year by the wonderful Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading, Jason from Old Blues Chapter and Verse, and Nicole from A Day of Small Things. They've all done wonderful versions of this tag, which is their original tag for Shaketember, and I'll link all of those in the description down below. I was kindly tagged by Kelly, so thank you Kelly, and I'm looking forward to sharing my experiences of Shakespeare. The first year I did Shaketember, I did find an old Shakespeare tag and talked a bit about Shakespeare then, so if you still want more Shakespeare after this video, I'll link that in the description as well, so you can go and check that out too. There are 12 questions to this tag, and I'm just going to get straight into them. I am wearing my Shakespeare t-shirt, which is actually a Red Nose Day t-shirt, and my favourite fact about this t-shirt is that I was once wearing it to school when I was teaching in reception. I was wearing it for Red Nose Day Comic Relief in the UK, and a little girl in my class asked me, "Is that your husband on your t-shirt?" And it was hilarious because obviously no. Got my Shakespeare t-shirt on, got my Shakespeare badge on that I bought at the Globe last year. I meant to say before I start that I will try and intersperse the questions with some sort of Shakespeare related pictures, because I did go to Stratford on a trip last year to Shakespeare's birthplace and saw various houses that Shakespeare had lived in, and I did go and see Macbeth at the Globe this summer, which was brilliant because I'd always wanted to go and see a play at the Globe. I will try and put in some pictures as we go through of Shakespearean things. Let's answer some questions. Question 1 was, what was your first experience reading Shakespeare and what was it like? I wasn't actually that sure, but the furthest back that I can remember, I think my year 7 teacher, so just before I left primary school, I think that we for some reason read part of The Tempest, and it was the scene with Caliban and Trinculo and Stephano, and it's always really stuck with me in my head, parts of Caliban's speech that he makes then. I just found Caliban so funny. I'm not sure why we studied that. Really don't know. Don't think we read the rest of the play. I have a vague memory of watching a production of it, which maybe was being performed in the school hall, but it definitely wasn't being performed by people from school, so I don't know. I really don't know, but for some reason we read Act 2 Scene 2 of The Tempest. I have a really weird memory. My memory stores up useless things like song lyrics and poems that I've learned in the past, and one thing that had really stuck with me, and I read The Tempest properly I think the first year that I did Shaketember, and I just loved this scene. It starts out with Caliban, and Caliban is basically cursing Prospero, who is like, I suppose, a master to him, and he's treated like a slave. He's not very happy, and it's just always stuck in my brain, his little speech, which is like, all the infections that the sun sucks up from bogs, fens, flats on Prosper fall, and make him by inch meal a disease. So in this scene, Caliban meets some like shipwrecked people who come across him, and the scene ends when they have they've given him drink basically, and he is a bit drunk by the end of the scene and ends up chanting about having a new master, so that had stuck in my head as well. Yes, it was a good first experience with Shakespeare, albeit just one scene. And we went on to, in high school, I studied Romeo and Juliet. GCSE we studied Macbeth. I don't remember either of those experiences being bad, and on all three of those school occasions I do remember that we read them out loud and we acted them out, and I just think that that really helps with Shakespeare. Like, reading it on the page is just not what it was written for. So yeah, I think that that was important, and I think that those teachers probably did a good job from what I can remember. Positive first experience, I think. Question 2 is, has the reading of a Shakespeare play ever brought you to tears? What scene was it, and where were you when it happened? Now, I cry at most things that I read, or a lot of things that I read, so it's a safe bet that I probably have cried at a Shakespeare play, but I can't remember having done so, so I'm going to have to go with no, probably. If I have, I can't remember it. So question 3 is, are there any people that have played a significant role in your Shakespeare journey? So I'm going to say my mum, because I always say my mum. I don't distinctly remember us reading Shakespeare, but probably I would imagine my mum would have read us some Shakespeare stories, perhaps. We did go, when I was much younger, to see Shakespeare's Globe, and did the tour of that theatre, which was absolutely brilliant. Loved that. And my mum and dad did take me to the theatre and to outdoor places to see Shakespeare. We went and saw, like, it was sort of on the seafront of where we used to live. We went, because me and my brother used to go to a drama group, and we were told that there would be like a Hamlet workshop run by these people who were going to be acting Hamlet that evening. So we went to it, and I think there was only 4 of us there, but that was really enjoyable, working with the actors. And yeah, we went and watched that on the seafront. I don't think I really understood Hamlet at that point, and I think it was quite difficult to watch because, like, lovely backdrop of the sea, but it was at night time and it was quite difficult to follow as far as I remember, but still enjoyable. We also went to see a production of Midsummer Night's Dream in someone's back garden. It was a back garden that was used to sort of put on plays, so not so weird. But yeah, theatre trips with my mum and dad and brother, and yeah, they've all influenced my Shakespeare journey. And I think I will also have to say Miss Holland. Miss Holland was my year 8 English teacher, I think, and I don't think we actually learned any Shakespeare with her. But when I was in year 10 or 11, a production of Romeo and Juliet was put on at school, and it was put on by Miss Holland, the English teacher. And for some reason, this was a really bizarre production of Romeo and Juliet, but I loved it anyway, because I got to be in it. This version of Romeo and Juliet was basically set in Fair Verona on the fashion scene. I don't know why, and we all walked the catwalk at the beginning. The Montagues was one fashion house, and the Capulets was another fashion house, a rival, and I got to be the character in the beginning scene of Romeo and Juliet, who, like, basically starts the big fight at the beginning by biting their thumb at somebody. So I had that line, and that was brilliant. Loved that. But I think I was then absent the day that the sort of party scene where Romeo meets Juliet was put together. So I basically didn't come back on the stage until the very end. And at the end, we all sang How Deep Is Your Love, with Romeo and Juliet, like, laying in the tomb. It had some crazy other pop song choices in there. I can remember Save Tonight by Eagle Eye Cherry was sung in the like scene where Romeo and Juliet have, like, their wedding night. So yeah, it was bizarre, but it was fun. And yeah, I loved my one and only experience of being in a Shakespeare play. So I would have to say Miss Holland did definitely increase my love for Shakespeare by giving me the chance to be in Romeo and Juliet. Question 4 is, do you have a favourite book or film about Shakespeare? No, not really. And I would love anybody who does have one to suggest me some in the comments down below. I have not read many books about Shakespeare and I would like to, so let me know if you know a good one. I really did like Hamlet, which I read last year, and I think that that's an absolutely brilliant book, and I love the portrayal of Shakespeare, who is very much a side character in that story, but love that. Probably that, if I had to pick something. I really enjoyed Shakespeare in Love when I was younger. That's a great film, obviously completely fictional probably, but still enjoyed it. So question 5, I have been racking my brains over this question because it's which character in Shakespeare most resembles you and in what ways? And I don't think I've ever thought of myself as being similar to any character in Shakespeare, but I did think of a couple of things. So one is that this badge that I'm wearing says a really good quote, which is, "Though she be but little, she is fierce." And this is said about a character in Midsummer Night's Dream, Hermia, and it's actually said as an insult to her. But yeah, I think taken out of context, that quote would apply to me. I'm little and fierce, but I also don't think I'm particularly like that character. I hope I'm not like Lady Macbeth, although I do sympathise with her hand washing situation because I am pretty obsessed with washing hands as well, though hopefully not as mad as Lady Macbeth. A few people have said Paulina from The Winter's Tale. I think that I am like a kind, loyal person. Don't think I'm probably as good at standing up for people as Paulina is, but yeah, I don't really have anybody else to compare to, apart from maybe Mercutio, because he talks a lot of rubbish and waffles on a fair bit. I don't know. Question 6 is, which play would you most like to see performed in a theatre and why? So any really of the Shakespeare plays. I've found that over time I have been to see Shakespeare plays. I've seen Midsummer Night's Dream the most. I think although some of them were amateur productions, I have seen that at least twice, maybe 3 times. Seen Measure for Measure. That was really good. I saw that in a little playhouse in Oxford. My best experience of going to a Shakespeare play was to see The Winter's Tale, and me and my mum were having a trip to London when I was 16, and we stumbled upon like this little playhouse that was doing The Winter's Tale that night, and we got tickets, and it was incredible. It was like a proper old playhouse. There was straw on the floor, and I thought that play was so wonderful from watching it there, and it was all about the atmosphere, because I've seen The Winter's Tale again since and it did not compare really. I think that's a great play, but nothing will compare to that like amazing experience of watching Shakespeare. So basically my answer is any of the plays I haven't seen so far. So I saw Macbeth at the Globe recently, as I've said. I saw Hamlet a long time ago and didn't really understand it, so maybe that would be a good one to go and see now that I've actually read it myself. But yeah, really my ideal would be to go and see like something more obscure. I've always been interested in seeing like maybe really obscure ones like Cymbeline, or really intense ones like Titus Andronicus, but don't think they're performed very often. In terms of the comedies, I studied Much Ado About Nothing at sixth form college. I've seen the film of that, and that's a great film, but I don't really have any desire to go and see that on the stage at this point in time. There's another one that I've seen, which I think might have been The Comedy of Errors. I'd quite like to see The Tempest again, because The Tempest is like, The Tempest is one that I'm not actually sure if I've seen it performed or not. But I think it would be brilliant to see like how they stage the storm and the shipwreck and all of those things. So possibly that. But I'm quite interested in seeing some that I haven't read or seen yet, like maybe Twelfth Night or Two Gentlemen of Verona. Yeah, something like that, possibly. But yeah, that's just basically saying I would go to pretty much any Shakespeare play that I got the opportunity to. So the next question is, which actor throughout history would you most like to have seen play Hamlet while in his prime? I don't really know. I haven't really had a strong desire to go and see Hamlet. I read it last year finally, and I finally understand why it's like such a major play, but prior to that I'd probably never even thought about like needing to go and see it and needing to see any famous actors be in it. But I suppose the one that I've heard most people talk about and praise in recent years would be David Tennant, so I suppose maybe David Tennant. Question 8 is, deliver your favourite speech or soliloquy from a Shakespeare play. I don't really have one that stands out that is like a big soliloquy or anything. When we went to see Macbeth, I really enjoyed the Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow speech, possibly because that has been such a favourite book this year, and Macbeth is actually relevant in that, but I don't know if I will read it. I actually do have a shorter favourite speech in Macbeth. Act 3, Scene 1. This is the line that's always stuck in my head from Macbeth, which is by Banquo when he's like really suspicious that Macbeth has managed to get everything that the witches said he would get. Thou hast it now, King, Cawdor, Glamis, all as the weird women promised, and I fear thou playedst most foully for it. So that's my favourite from Macbeth. My actual favourite speech is not really even a speech, it's like the introduction to Romeo and Juliet, and I remember like a chunk of this, not quite all of it, but yeah, it's just stuck with me and has always been a favourite, although I think there are so many good lines in Romeo and Juliet. This is actually a line by the chorus, so it kind of introduces the whole play. And Shakespeare, this really does contain a lot of spoilers for the play. So yeah, here we go. Two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene. From ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their lives, whose misadventured piteous overthrows doth with their death bury their parents' strife. The fearful passage of their death-marked love, and the continuance of their parents' rage, which but their children's end naught could remove, is now the 2 hours' traffic of our stage. The which if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to mend. I love that opening. Anyway, so yeah, that's that. So question 9 is, do any of Shakespeare's plays intimidate you? If yes, what play and why? I'm going to say a whole classification of plays because I've never read any or seen any of Shakespeare's history plays, and they do intimidate me. I once watched some of The Hollow Crown and that was really, really good, but yeah, I still find the history plays quite intimidating. Let me know which one is good to start with because I do want to get over that and stop being intimidated. Question 10 is, what tips would you give to intimidated readers coming to Shakespeare for the first time? I suppose I would say try and watch the play. Although it may not always make sense to you, it makes more sense, I think, performed than it does necessarily just reading it cold on the page. These were written to perform, so you're going to get the most out of it if you watch it. And I think watching it first, then reading it, then maybe watching it again is a great idea. So I think that all the films and recorded plays that you can get hold of are probably great ideas. Have I done that myself? Probably not, but I definitely think it helps. And sometimes I think if you are just tackling it by reading it, I think sometimes reading it aloud or listening to it performed on an audiobook is really helpful too. But the main tip I would give is don't be intimidated. For these to still be being performed today is just astonishing to me, hundreds of years later, and I find that really, really amazing. And yeah, just because you might think Shakespeare is intimidating, it doesn't have to be. Just go into it with an open mind and try to enjoy it, and probably watch an adaptation as well. Question 11 is, which is your favourite Shakespeare play and why? Romeo and Juliet. I have a massive soft spot for it. It's probably the first play that I actually read, because we read it at school, or read in its entirety. I know lots of little lines from it and passages from it in my head. I can remember we acted out scenes when we learnt about it. I don't think I've ever watched it apart from being in it, but I also really love the Baz Luhrmann film. I've watched half of that with my mum yesterday and going to watch the other half next time I see her. Absolutely love that film, but there are other great films of it as well. That is definitely a play I would really like to see performed on the stage. Final prompt is to tag other booktubers, and lots of booktubers have already been tagged, or I've seen them doing this tag, and there are some brilliant versions out there. I'm really enjoying hearing everybody's different responses to these questions. I would like to tag 2 more booktubers, and I'm going to tag Lisa in Bookland and Olivia Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe, and that's because I know that both of them also went recently to the Globe to see Macbeth, and I would love to hear their responses as well. That was the Shakespeare Journey Tag. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments, have you ever read any Shakespeare or been to see any Shakespeare performed? Do you have a favourite Shakespeare film or play? Let me know all of these things. Even answer some of the questions if you would like to. Or if you don't fancy leaving a comment, perhaps leave me a Shakespeare related emoji if you can find one. That's all from me today. If you've enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. Please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I will hope very much to see you all again soon for another video all about books here on Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Bye for now.